Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Connecting the Dots. And my name is Alan McCafferty, and I'll be with you here today. And I want to welcome everyone. Just get my screen up here. So, welcome you and thank you for joining us. Like I said, my name is Alan McCafferty, and I am the director of the Information Cybersecurity Program at the University of Ottawa Professional Development Institute. And this morning's event is part of our free outreach series. We do a number of these throughout the year, and it's designed to help us raise awareness and strengthen knowledge about information security and cybersecurity in the workforce with other professionals. Just a little bit about PDI. For over 40 years, the University of Ottawa Professional Development Institute, which we refer to as PDI, has been a trusted provider of professional development with thousands of professionals going through our doors every year now. Many of those doors are virtual doors, and we do it exactly like this. We have virtual classrooms, and it's quite exciting. Our courses are all led by subject matter experts, and today I'm going to talk to Kevin Conroy, who's with us. But we're also proud, University of Ottawa and PDI, we're also proud to host Canada's only internationally recognized cyber range of its kind. There's only 4 in the world, and one of them sits on the campus of the University of Ottawa. And we have international delegates and public and private sector clients that come in there and do cybersecurity exercises. We also have an internationally recognized misinformation lab that we do work with private industry and with governments for combating misinformation. Today, joining me is Kevin Conroy. Kevin is the vice president of DNS Networks. They're an infrastructure company in Ottawa. Kevin is also the senior corporate security officer for DNS Networks, and he's a multi-certified expert, subject matter expert in cybersecurity standards and corporate policy. He works with all kinds of private and public sector organizations, and I'm really happy that he agreed to come and talk to us about supply chains today and talk about security and supply chains and enterprise, how to secure enterprise systems. So welcome, Kevin. Why don't you tell us, that's my intro about you, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? How's that?
That's great. Thank you, Alan, and welcome everyone. And thanks for taking the time to come and join us this morning to talk about this very important topic when it comes to keeping your business and your clients and everything secure along the way. So as Alan said, I'm VP of IT security and operations at DNS Networks, and for about 2 decades now, I've helped startups, establish businesses, law firms, universities, health institutions, and critical infrastructure operators stay productive on the IT side of thing and secure at the same time. We here at DNS have 5 main lines of business that we focus on. Our core business is managed IT and security services. So, 24/7 monitoring of IT environments for clients, along with a not well 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday Eastern time help desk, with ability to respond obviously for emergencies after hours. We also deliver professional IT services, which could include systems integration or solutions integrations, cloud migrations, complex network rebuilds, and any other IT project that your IT team might not have the capacity or skill set to do in-house. We have a web and application development team that really focuses on applications that are secure by design, following best practices like OWASP standards. And we build customer portals, internal business applications, and of course, websites for our clients. AI and machine learning solutions. We've got a very senior AI ML person on staff that's come from a background of financial AI automation as well as fraud detection, and previous to that worked for Nike over in Japan. So very fortunate to have a great skill set that we can leverage for our clients, especially those that are looking to try to figure out what to do with their structured or unstructured data. So we've had a few successful business cases on the AI side of things with our senior team on that front. And lastly, SEO and digital marketing services with regards to, your online presence. And we have, verified or a licensed drone, advanced drone operator on staff, photographer, and SEO specialists and marketing specialists. So again, thank you everyone for joining, and I look forward to the conversation today because what we do here at DNS is ensure that our clients who rely on their IT supply chains have good resilience in place and can continue to work without the worry of having, cracks in their supply chain with regards to their own businesses.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin, and thanks for that detailed kind of background on DNS and really kind of sets the stage. So it's like you get all the hard questions. And that just brings me up to the point. There is no Q&A at the end of this. This is a discussion. So it's like if you have a question, put it in the chat, put it in the question, and we'll answer it. If we can, we will answer that question right away. We'll bring that into the conversation. So you don't have to wait to the end. That's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about all of these types of things. So why don't we get started with that? And I want to talk to you a little bit about a profile, a supply chain example, and I'm going to walk you through this. And maybe you will know the company I'm talking about as I'm going through it. And if you don't, I will reveal it to you at the end. So you will know it definitely by the end. So I want you to go back a little bit, December 19th, 2013. And this is a supply chain example. Okay, this is supply chain, but it has to do with information security. So December 19th, 2013, what were you doing around the holiday season then? Malicious actors used a weak security control in an HVAC system. So just so everybody knows, HVAC is heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Okay, so malicious actors used a weak security control in an HVAC system to infiltrate a supply chain network that wasn't properly segmented. So it's like large supply chain network. I go through in the HVAC, not even a Windows operating computer. I go through the back door, I get into that, and then I move laterally through this network that wasn't segmented properly. Now, what was the outcome of this crime? The crime included 70 million customers' personal identifiable information was taken. 40 million credit cards were stolen in a period of less than a month. What was the impact on the company? Net profit dropped 46% in the next quarter and took years to recover. Their stock price took a significant decline due to investor concerns. There was a sell-off, a publicly traded company, and there was a sell-off. They had legal cases that they had to settle. It took years to settle with states, with a number of states. So guess what? It's a U.S. company, and class action lawsuits that had to be done. Their estimated cost was somewhere around $200 million US. Both the CEO and the CIO had to resign from the company. And can you tell me who the company was? Any ideas? And oh, Kevin, you're on mute. And if you're
Oh,
trying, there you
am
go.
I muted or
There
sorry?
you go. Now you're back.
I was gonna say, now that people are dropping ideas in chat and probably have a good idea of what's going on, it's really interesting to point out that the event and the attack took a little over a month. It's not
Yeah,
something that happens overnight. And it's proof that threat actors, once they're in your system, they stay there and they stay hidden for a long time because that's how they'll get the biggest bang for their buck, right? It's not in and out like a lot of people think it might be. So it's a good point.
exactly. So coming back to it, what was the company? Target. Target was the company. That's who it was. I'm just going to, and while we're doing that, I'm going to bring this back up. I'm going to share my screen, and I want to go through this with people. Quickly share my screen and a couple slides here. This is what we call Cyber Attack 101 slide. And here we have our attacker over there, and that attacker has all of the same information that you have. They have access to cell phones, and they have access to databases and the internet and email and telephones and chat, and they can do social media profiling. And they can see various computers out there. And what happens is what they're trying to do is they're trying to break through your security perimeter, through your firewalls, through your access control, any surveillance detection that you have, and they want to get onto that corporate server exactly like they did in that case of Target, but in their case, they went through an HVAC system as opposed to a corporate server. Once there, they want to move laterally. That's their biggest thing. How can I move laterally undetected? And the best ones, um, we say that you have about 10 minutes once they're on your network before they move laterally. The best case of the malicious actors. And then finally, they get onto that. They look for a compromised computer. They're looking for all of your policies, processes, procedures, your personal identifiable information, personal health information, financial information, any corporate IP that you have. They're trying to do that. And then they're trying to get back out through a proxy device, and they want to exfiltrate that. And then they want to take that and sell that. That is Cyber Attack 101. I could spend all day or all week teaching you a course just on that. But if you can take anything from today, that's one of the things that you should take from is that is what a cyber attack is. Now, taking that in the context, I want to talk to you about and something in the supply chain right now. We're going to go over here. As of May, and here's where I want to start with this. Oh, I'll go back here. Sorry about that. Shouldn't have clicked the button. So as of May 2025, 400 million Windows PCs worldwide are unable to upgrade to Windows 11 at this time. Okay, 400 million. Of those, roughly 240 million require hardware upgrade. On October 14th, 2025, Windows 10 goes end of life. So no more support. And just announced, late last week, Microsoft just announced Office 365 will no longer work on Windows 10 as of October 14th. So if you have a 365 subscription on October 15th, if you're running a Windows 10 machine, it will no longer work. It won't start. So 2020, like, what does this mean to us from a supply chain standpoint? What does this mean to us from a security standpoint? Let me take you through this. 2024, Counterport Research, Canalys, and IDC, 250 million PCs were built and supplied in 2024. So roughly the entire global supply chain for PCs is about 250 million a year. As of May 2025, we have 240 million PCs that need to be upgraded. That is a major, major supply chain risk, not just an operating risk. That's a major supply chain risk when you think about that. And to understand the magnitude, we got to go all the way back to 1999. Why 1999? That's Y2K. That's the last time we had an incident such as this. In 1999, 300 million computers were affected by Y2K. And anybody who has gray hair or lack of hair like me will remember Y2K, and they'll go back there. And if you're quite young, you may not remember Y2K, but that was a global panic. We are in a similar situation, yet we have 240 million computers that cannot be upgraded to Windows 11. They need hardware upgrades. We have a supply chain that can only supply that amount of in an entire year, and we're almost 6 months into the year. So I'll put my risk hat on here for a minute, and I'll say, you know what? We have a problem. We have a 150 million PC problem already in May. That's a supply chain problem. So any Any comments, any feedback on that?
I think I'll add my 2 cents as the VP at an MSP firm where we've communicated this with clients now for the past 6 to 12 months, depending on life cycle and everything to do with their IT environment. And we're still getting, sometimes pushback on, well, do I really have to? And the answer is, of course, no, but understand your risk if you don't. And we also have to understand our risk if they don't, because we're essentially liable for their environment. So again, as a supplier myself, I have to weigh the risks in how I'm going to manage the supply chain of services down to my clients, as well as make sure that they understand the risks if they don't adhere to upgrading for an OS that is, like you said, end of life, end of support.
Yeah, honestly, it's shocking to me. It's mind-boggling and shocking. Same thing when we're out, even friends, family, people like that that I know. It's like, are you still running Windows 10? And the answer quite often is, yeah. It's like, have you heard what a zero-day threat is? And if I bring 100 people in the room, 99 of them say, no, what's a zero-day threat? And Kevin, you're multi-certified. Do you know what a zero-day threat is?
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
to the last point before I work on that one, I'm shocked as well because Windows 10 is 10 years old. It will be 10 years old this year. And that's like absolutely mind-boggling to most people in business that, days merge into weeks, merge into months and years, and all of a sudden you're running an older OS, or you've worked with an IT supplier or decided to buy your own equipment and you're buying used or old equipment, not thinking of the potentials of, these caveats and pitfalls that you might fall into, right? So at the end of the day, you have to realize that working with a good IT vendor is a great way to make sure that you're not going to fall into a trap from a supply chain standpoint that could lead to a security breach. So
You, you
again,
actually,
is sorry,
sorry,
go
Kevin.
ahead. No,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I was going to say you bring up a great point, and one of the points I want to make when you say a vendor, um, and if you think about back to the winter and the spring, we had, there was a whole bunch of committee meetings last fall. Actually, it was last fall. The Hogue Commission had to do with foreign interference, and we talked about foreign interference in our elections, but there's foreign interference in our technology.
Yeah,
Um, there's a lot of foreign interference in our technology. We think when we buy a piece of technology, and I'm telling you now from a researcher standpoint, from a risk manager standpoint, from an analyst standpoint, from a cyber event investigator standpoint, we have a tremendous amount of faith in our supply chain vendors when we go buy a system. And we quite often talk about PCs and we talk about servers, but your printer is a computer. Your home thermostat is a computer. Your control networks that control our critical infrastructure, our oil, our gas, our telephone, our communications, our electricity, these are all computer based now. These and we have global supply chains and we buy um, a lot of technology from a lot of global suppliers. How do I know if I'm safe? How do
yeah.
I know I'm not buying an HVAC that doesn't have a back door into it?
And when speaking about these critical technologies or operational technologies to that point, if you do have a zero-day threat in an existing system that is, relatively newer or already online, and by the way, zero day is essentially an unknown security bug in the software that you're running on your system. It's essentially somebody discovers it and a patch hasn't been created for it yet. So it can be exploited until it's patched. It's, you know, uh, uh, like a dead zone from a security standpoint in your system that really needs to be resolved by usually the manufacturer of the software product. But again, I'm seeing operational technologies that are 30 years old because these systems have like the life cycle is unbelievable compared to, you know, your work laptop or work computer. And these systems, because they have such a long lifespan, you know, Siemens makes some, there's a lot of companies out there that make these things that work in power plants or hospitals. And these systems come online because the manufacturer then decides to, well, it would be helpful if, you know, the operator for those systems had a single pane of glass. So let's put these systems on the internet without verifying if these old systems have, you know, weak entry points or anything like that. And they essentially end up creating risks when putting older systems online without knowing that, you know, quote unquote, 0-day threats exist in them because there was never a need to patch them. They were always air gapped or offline on a segregated network that had no access to the internet. And fortunately and unfortunately, you know, that the advancement of technology, that's changing.
Yeah. It's you bring up a good point. And one of the things that we do in the research, some of the research that we do is we're constantly scanning the internet for open databases. And you say older technology. And we think, oh, we're not doing that now. At any given day, there's tens of thousands of open databases on the internet, databases that were posted, published, created online within the last 24 hours, 48 hours. It's people think they're, oh, I'm okay, I'm secure, or maybe they forget a step in the process of securing their applications. But tens of thousands of databases on the all time. We have a message came in from the chat, um, and it's haha, my neighbor's fridge got a blue screen of death last year because of a CrowdStrike failure. So it's like, um, we were talking about Target and their HVAC, and here we have our fridge is connected to CrowdStrike. But yeah, all of these modern day systems in our supply chain now are taught, they are computers. In essence, they are computers. I'm going to share my screen, Kevin, and I just want to put this, we're going to post up this particular table here. And we talked about this. We put this together. Here's interesting. If I'm looking at supply chain, if I said, hey, we kind of done this intro for supply chain, but if I'm looking at it, the supply chain has hardware, software, and there's risks with it. And you look at the supply chain of an organization from the planning and sourcing, manufacturing, distribution, sales and delivery, and post-sales and end of life. We talked about Windows 10 going end of life. So there's my high-level steps in the supply chain process for delivery. There's some of the hardware and software. Does this make sense to you, Kevin? Like in your world, if I had this, or if I sat down with somebody and said, "Hey, here's kind of a matrix, or a table that you should be aware of, and here's some of the risks that we have over there." Would this make sense?
Absolutely. I think it's a great high level place to start for any leadership team that's working to expose risks or potential risks in the organization related to supply chain. And once they take a table like this and really start working on each like category, like planning, sourcing, manufacturing, that they'll expose many different things that they hadn't thought of. So a lot of these become great thought exercises that lead to good action within a business.
Yeah, I wanna highlight one in there. We talked about Windows 10 as an operating system, and I'm sure we have a few people online today that like the Apple or Mac operating system. Although I may not be a fan, I do like my iPhone. But one on there in particular I want to point out is the SCADA networks. SCADA networks are industrial networks. You may not be familiar with them if you work in an office. If, let's say, I work for federal government or state government, provincial, municipal. Let's say I work in private industry, and I write software. I may not be known. SCADA may not be known to me, but SCADA is an industrial network, quite often seen in critical infrastructure. Um, and it's an older technology. It's an older standard, older protocol. I said network, but I mean it's a protocol, but different, totally different level of security in there. And we see issues in SCADA. And again, trying to catch up. Years ago, we nobody was concerned about SCADA. Now it's a big deal. So these are all things that we need to look at. So it's not just about your computer. We need to look beyond our computer.
We
Uh,
do, and it's not realistic for anyone to fully understand and to be able to work through all of these things on their own. So even at DNS, we partner with Fortinet, who has a great SCADA tool set add-on for their firewall line. And we help our clients implement that if they're running industrial control systems in their environment. So again, it's not that my IT tech or my firewall tech will know exactly what to do, but working with the right vendors and partners will definitely help you minimize your risks in situations like this.
yeah. I went down the list earlier. I talked about open databases, and if you go down the list below distribution, we see sales and delivery. And over there, we see CRM, order processing platforms, e-commerce platforms. Those are all database driven applications. Those are some of the thousands that we see open on any given day. Departments, organizations. Most of these things lots of these things are now being delivered as a service. I buy the service, people log on, they're constantly doing updates in that subscription model, and things drop. People make mistakes. They're not, it's 99 times out of 100, it's not malicious, but people make mistakes, and those mistakes then open up databases and they're open. And there's a good example right there, data breaches going through.
Have you come across any databases of telemetry data? Just systems reporting data back to like an open environment?
Absolutely. It is there. We think it's less now. I've got to go back a little bit in my history. Some of the systems that we used to work in, some of the critical infrastructure, aerospace, some of those other systems, and I won't get into too much detail, but yeah, they were open. Many of these were open um, data to open telemetry. And if you knew how to log on, where to log on, you could get all that information. Many things used to be free, and we didn't think anybody was looking at it.
Well,
So,
there's a great example of open telemetry in the RF hacking world or radio frequency is planes, right? Their beacons and transponders just send all sorts of data back to towers and it's unencrypted. It's, height, latitude, how far away you are, and time vectors and things like that. And of course, it's illegal to intercept or play with that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of data out there, whether it's open radio waves or databases like the ones you were just talking about.
yeah. Let's move forward. There's a couple things, we still have some time. Oh, here. Um, about halfway through, but there's a couple questions I want to see if we can answer. Oh, here we go again. Uh, um, you know, some big topics for the next half hour we want to kind of go through. So why do organizations still believe that their vendors breach is not their problem? Um, I'm this organization, and if my vendor two layers down or even the next layer down, they're breached, it's not my problem. Um, really, well, I want to talk about that with you a little bit. What's the cost of your to your reputation when a supplier is breached? Um, even if your systems are untouched. I don't know if you any experience with your clients that has experienced that, but we talked a little bit about target there. How can organizations realistically ensure their vendors and suppliers meet security standards? That's a big one. I want to make sure we cover that one. Number three, what are some examples of cascading supply chain failures? And then finally, what steps can you take today to reduce them? And I want to end at five. Hopefully, we can squeeze that in. Well, I want to give you guys some practical examples of what we can do there. So, why don't we start there, Kevin? Um, so, number one, from your opinion, your point of view, why do vendors, why do companies, why do your clients, why do organizations feel like, well, if their vendors breach, that's not my problem? Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, at the high level, they just don't want other problems added to their plate, right? So they're trying to defer risks to their suppliers in that case. And it's fine if you understand that the supplier has risk mitigation strategies of their own in place. However, at the end of the day, it is your problem because you have a duty within your business to output, a product or service to your customers, and you're responsible for understanding all the inputs to your business and where those risks lie. So I think as a business owner, even though you can maybe defer the risk back to your supplier, you should definitely take ownership of understanding the risk and working with the vendors that you're choosing to work with to make sure that you get assurances at the least.
Yeah, no, that's good. The other thing, again, one of the things we look at, like we do research in databases and all these things, but we also look at these various studies. And IBM puts out an annual study through a third party. They do this research, and one of the things from year over year, we don't see this change. It's very consistent. 60% of data breaches rarely remain isolated. 60%. Uh, so, 6 out of 10 chance your vendor's breached, you're going to get breached. Why? Because you're connected to them in
Yeah.
some way, some shape or form. You connect. If we go back to our cyber 101, cyber attack 101, that malicious actor, remember, if he gets information out of your vendor, and if he gets your name, if he gets your company name, if he gets your company profile, he already knows you're doing business with them.
Yeah,
It could just be as simply as, oh my gosh, I can see Kevin at DNS works with these people. Maybe I'll just send a phishing email over to Kevin and say, hey, Kevin, do you want to do business with us? Or, hey, Kevin, your payment is ready. Or, hey, Kevin, your shipment is ready. Just click here. You ever get those emails, Kevin?
absolutely. Absolutely. And with the world of tools that we have to work with now, and a lot of our business tools are online, right? They're software as a service, as the acronym goes. We have to very much think of the risks of what happens if I'm using Sage or QuickBooks Online and they get hacked and that data gets leaked. Well, that's my client data, that's my company's financial data. There's, client lists in there. It's going to be detrimental, and maybe your reputation won't be affected so much if you can kind of point back to that, but there's still going to be a very much an operational and a financial impact to you and potentially your clients when you talked earlier a little bit about cascading risks, right? You're opening your clients and your suppliers with a list like that up to now known attack vectors that weren't previously known, right? Company personnel information that they could potentially use to leverage in a phishing attack or some sort of social engineering attack as well.
I want to pull on that thread a little bit, something that you said, leveraging, and it made me think of AI. AI technology, and it's like, okay, so I pull out some information about Kevin Conroy and the company, or I pull out other information. I can now use AI to create, and I can go search the internet and find information about Kevin, and I can find various topics about Kevin, and maybe, there's going to be a record of this conversation that we're having. There's going to be a video, and which kind of brings you to a good point. You can, if you choose to, you can always go back to the University of Ottawa Professional Development Institute site, and you can find copies of these, some of these conversations. We post them after the fact. But what does that do? Well, from an AI standpoint, it's actually, I can use this video to train an IA model in my cadence. I can use this video to train an AI model in Kevin's cadence of speech. I can then use AI to create a video of Kevin or a video of Alan talking to, maybe I'm speaking to the stakeholders. Maybe I put out a video of the CEO of Nike saying that we promote child laborers, and it's totally false. That can have a major reputation
Yeah.
damage to that organizations, to the millions, and it can be completely false. And it's like AI, if I get information, it used to be I only wanted to get personal identifiable information. I only wanted to get personal financial information, and I could resell that information. But now it's like, yeah, I want to find the cadence of how Kevin speaks. If you're a large organization, if you're a CEO in an organization, if you're a public figure or political figure, I want to find that cadence because I'm going to use AI to potentially manipulate you, but I want that the sound, look, hear, feel like that person speaking to me. Um, and maybe you have some comments on that, maybe you don't, Kevin, but have you seen some of that type of stuff in your work?
I haven't seen it in my day-to-day with my clients, but obviously I'm versed in it and I have seen a lot of it online. And if you're talking to the point of, deep fakes when it comes to imagery or video, that will definitely, in a world where we live in, where social media has its own sort of justice system, you're guilty before proven innocent. The reputational damage is done, and you have to figure out how to claw your way back from that. And it can be devastating to your business and to your personal reputation.
Yeah, and again, it's like one of these things that I'll take I would say, you know, what can I do? There are various articles out there. Again, IBM puts out a report, an annual report looking at this. What's the cost of your reputation? Um, kind of a rule of thumb that we look at what it's going to cost you. Take a number of records in your organization, and a record is, if I'm looking at Kevin here and I'm looking at Alan, and I'd say Kevin, the word Kevin, that's a record. That record has more value. If I say Conroy, that goes beside it, that's two records. If I can get your phone number, there's three records. If I can get your email address, that's four records. If I have 2,000 people in my database or 2,000 clients in my database, I have at least four records. That's 8,000. I take that number, I multiply that by $165 per record. That gives me a rough estimate of what it's going to cost me. And I'll go back to Target. That's what it's going to cost me to fix the issue, to address the issue. That's what it's going to cost me in legal costs. That's what it's going to cost me in protection and support and correction activities. So $165, rough order of magnitude, $165 per record. And just so you understand, a record, when we talk about record, a first name is record, last name is record, email address is a record, phone number is a record. So if I said Kevin Conroy, there's four records, and just Kevin alone, you can see there's four times $165. Multiply that by thousands or millions. In the case of Target, we said it was 70 and 40, 110 million, cost them $200 million. It was cheaper in 2013 than it is now. So,
And it's a good, you're making a good point to, it shouldn't be that scary for businesses to at least do a high level calculation of loss exposure,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, like I said, I come from a risk background. That's one of the areas we look at all the time, and it's like that's a very, very practical number that you can go to the CEO, that you can go to your CFO and say, "This is our loss exposure. This is what we have at risk. $10 million. If this thing disappeared on us, it would cost us $10 million. If that HVAC system is open and they can get through a back door, move laterally, and then get all this information, we stand to lose $10 million. Can we afford that?
Right.
So
And if nothing else, it's a good number to go to your insurance company with when you're talking about liability coverage.
yes, yes. Actually, let's pull on that thread. I've seen this. I have personally seen this in some of the work that we do outside the university, where insurance companies have denied claims. And the customer said, but I bought the insurance. But part of buying insurance, supply chain insurance, cyber risk insurance, infosec insurance, you still have a duty of care. You have to have a duty of care. And at some point, bad things happen. And if a bad things happen, the first question the insurance company is going to ask you is, show me all the reasonable steps you took to protect that information. And if you cannot show reasonable steps, this is an important fact here. If you cannot show reasonable steps, the insurance company has the right to say denied.
Absolutely, especially if on the front end you told them you were taking reasonable steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads into my next topic, due diligence. It's nice to say I've put all these things in place. I'm telling my software team when you post a database, when you do an update, that make sure that it's secure. I do all these checks. I do everything that needs to be done. We've adopted ISO 27001. What do I do for my vendors? How do I flow that down, or do I flow that down to through my supply chain? Do I have a responsibility to do that? Is that a reasonable step in your opinion?
Absolutely. Yep, you have to. And it's a reasonable step for many reasons that, we can, like you said, spend a day trying to get through, but at the end of the day, it's for risk mitigation in your own business. You don't want cascading failures across your supply chain or across any of your infosec.
I want to kind of pull on that. We hear those terms a lot around there, infosec or information security and cybersecurity. And we talk about things like, I said ISO 27001. There's a lot of people out there who'll say SOC 2, NIST, ITSG 33, High Trust, CMMC. Uh, are these all different? Are they all different? What are they? Are they standards? Are they laws? What are they?
Yeah,
Uh,
they're absolutely all different, but the underlying idea to all of them is that they're providing you with a framework, a baseline, so that when you're talking about information security and risk governance within your business, that you have these tools that you can go to and sort of take from them in certain cases and apply policies, processes, and procedures as a base foundation within your company to be able to help mitigate some of the risks that exist out there. There, like you said, there are frameworks, there are standards. You can get certified in certain things. There are maturity models that you might want to look at, like, if, your system, you've put your system in place, but over time, if you're not advancing it and you're not thinking of making it better, like in the context of the life cycle of any system, which is the plan, do, check, and act on it, and that continuous improvement, your systems will fall behind. Just like your business, if you stop selling, or if you stop innovating, your business will die. It's the same idea for your information security system.
Well, can't everybody just adopt ISO? Like, and one of the ones I know, and I know quite well, is ISO 27001. Can't I just say everybody adopt ISO 27001? Wouldn't that just work? We don't need we don't need SOC 2. What do we need SOC 2 for?
Right. And they can just adopt that, but it might not meet the requirements to work with certain clients, for example, or it might not meet their business needs. At the end of the day, whatever you're implementing has to meet the needs of your business, and you have to really understand what you're doing to serve your customers and who your company is, what you do, and figure out what the best system is for you. And that's when you work with a professional to, try to understand, given all these things that are out there, what would be the best thing to implement in my business to be able to secure myself, my supply chain, and my client data, my employee data, when we talked about PII, PHI, all that stuff.
Actually, I'm going to pull on that thread. You just brought up an excellent point. When we looked at a previous slide, we talked about supply chain. We kind of looked from us down, from my organization down into my supply chain, and we didn't talk about the customer, but our customer, my customer, your customer, company ABC customer, we need to consider them as part of that overall chain, maybe not part of the supply chain, but we become their supply chain. And so we need to look up as well and look at those customers, correct?
You have to look at all key stakeholders in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so if I'm publicly traded, I need to be aware in this day and age, I need to be aware of all of my stock exchange and all the various how my stock is trading and the impact on the public when I do that. So it's not enough anymore just to say I'm going to be isolated. I'm going to put up all of this garden wall of protection around my organization. I have to go beyond that. So
absolutely. And at the top level of all this is that cap you put on earlier, which is your risk management hat. Everything you're going to do under that has to do with information security, cybersecurity, getting the proper insurance for liability. If someone slips and falls on your property, everything is comes down to managing a risk to mitigate, either financial or reputational loss.
yeah. I want to go back. I want to take a step back and go back to the from a supply chain standpoint, from due diligence, and expand a little bit on that conversation. And we talked about ISO 27001, we talked about SOC 2, and we talked about high trust a little bit and NIST and CMMC. Whereas, and I'm just going to pull CMMC out for a minute because that is a capability maturity model for security. So that's a little bit different. But when I look at 27001, the ISO standard, and SOC 2 and NIST and ITSG 33, these are control-based standards. Um, and if I'm doing security controls, it's all the same security controls, right? It's not like this one has a magic control and we don't get the magic control. They're all the same controls, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Every uh every one of those standards or frameworks has a varied set of controls that all at the end of the day protect the same thing, which are the information assets in your business. The idea here is that you want to make sure that you're right. One doesn't have a magic control, but you want to make sure that the controls you're putting in place line up with your business needs, your clients' needs, and to protect their information.
Right. I want to go from there and it's like, so if I, from your point of view, now I'm looking for your opinion. From your point of view, if I adopt ISO 27001 and I go down into my supply chain and one of my vendors has adopted SOC 2, is that enough due diligence in your opinion?
Well,
Or is
if
that a
they've
pass?
adopted it and they produce a report showing you that it's in place, you'll find that you can map the different cybersecurity controls within ISO 27001 directly over to the controls in SOC 2. So it's a good start. It's not everything that you need, but you have to define your requirements for what you need to, or what you need from your supply chain vendors. If, as a business, you say, if they have SOC 2 or ISO 27001 in place and, they're certified or assessed, or they have their reports in place, that might be enough to at least trust them to work with them. You'll want to measure them on other KPIs as you work with them to make sure that they're helping you on time and the price makes sense. They're not gouging you and all that other kind of stuff. But having a process in place is definitely going to help you work with better vendors over time, and it'll help you produce better quality products and services for your clients. So it's a good thing to work on.
Yeah, one of the things I want to pull out there, and just before we go continue on, we're getting to the end, is that and you said certified, and I just want to pull on that a little bit. It's like, whereas ISO 27001 is an independent certification that is recognized in 164 countries, SOC 2 is an opinion or an attestation from an accounting firm. A little difference there. A little
Yeah,
different. And I think it's important that people understand that there is a difference between those two. One is an opinion, and the other one is an independent certification. So,
right. Again, coming down to your business needs. If
yeah,
you want to be certified and have that stamp that proves things, then go with ISO, especially if you've got international clients, because it is an international standard.
right. Okay. Been pretty good conversation. We're coming to the end here. I'm just gonna check my notes. Couple things. I'm gonna put this up here for us. Share my screen. Uh, There we go. Share screen. Of course, when I want to share a screen, I have an issue sharing my screen. There you go.
I mean, the pressing one is the Windows 10, right? It's
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. We're back. There you go, Kevin. Technology challenged, and I was able to find the shared screen. So, taking a look at this, we have in the cybersecurity, your weakest supplier is your first breach, not your last line of defense. So that is where it is. Doesn't matter if they're small or large. We like to say that. The other thing is suppliers are the soft targets. You could have all of your systems hardened as much as possible, but they're actually the soft target that you need to take a look at. Trust without verifications invites risks. Small vendors, big consequences. We saw that we started out this morning with the HVAC example. So we need to be aware of those types of things. Risks travel through relationships. And that's one of the things that we said is like we're all connected all the way up to the customer, and back the other way. Visibility is your first control. And so we kind of ended off there. That was our last little bit of a discussion around uh, 27001, SOC 2, NIST, one of those types of standards. That gives me visibility into their system. So we take a look at it that way. But you brought up a good point. Compliance is not enough.
a great start.
Yeah. I want to kind of end here and then we'll wrap it up, you and I. So a couple things. What do you want to do? Some practical, I said I would get to this point, practical supply chain cybersecurity, protect connections. Okay. Secure every partner and vendor touch point. Trust must be earned and verified. You talked about SOC 2 is a beginning, not an end. ISO 27001 is a beginning, not an end. You need to, so protect that supply chain. Do what you need to protect it. Number two, protect your data flow. Ensure your data is encrypted, access is controlled, and movement is monitored across systems. We didn't talk a lot, Kevin. We could probably spend an entire day talking about SCADA networks and different network protocols. The most common ones we see on the internet, HTTPS and TCP/IP for network protocols. But we need to encrypt our data. We need to use firewalls. We need to use VPNs and various things and encrypt our data inside of that. Protect your dependencies. Identify, assess, monitor third-party risks. Your weakest supplier can be your biggest threat. You agree with that one?
I do. Again, key stakeholders and understanding where their weaknesses are.
Yeah. And then finally, protect your operations. Integrate cybersecurity into your procurement, into your culture, into your logistics, into your manufacturing to keep it all running. That's what, the way that you need to do this to pull it all together. That kind of brings us to the end of today, Kevin. Um, Thank you very much for today. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the time that you spent with me today. What I'll do is I'll give you the last word, and then I will close off today's session. If you have anything that you want to add for the group, now's your chance.
All right. Well, thank you, Alan. I did want to say that, there's a lot of things that we discussed today, and what, a good takeaway, if everyone could just consider this, there are a lot of risks out there, and you'll probably never identify them all, but try to think about thresholds in your business and what, because when you go from a risk to an incident, because we talked a lot about the different supply chain risks, but when does something like, Windows 10 is end of life become an incident in your business? Are you, too close to finish the project for the upgrade on time? Then do we need to throw more resources at that? And does it need to be treated like an open incident in your company? That's something that I think about for my clients, and I just wanted to leave that with you as one example. You can think of it, having a third party vulnerability becoming your incident with regards to anything in your supply chain. So explore it from that angle. Again, it was great being on here. Thank you very much for having me. It was a great conversation. If people wanted to find me or reach out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn/K Conroy, or you can email me, kevin@dnsnetworks.com. I'm available for any questions or chats you might want to have. Thanks a lot, Alan.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate your time today. Appreciate all your insights and your comments on today's discussion. And for everyone who joined us, if you found today's discussion insightful and want to explore more about potentially supply chains or operating systems, information security, cybersecurity, crisis management, I encourage you to visit the University of Ottawa Professional Development website. I've put um, the link to it, the website, in the chat for you if you're interested. There you'll find a wealth of information and free resources, upcoming events like this one and other ones. We have one on June 26th in Canada North, a live event in Canada North. So whether online or in person, delivery directly to you or at a client site, we're there to help you. And what we like to say, and I'll finish it with this today, what we like to say at the professional development student, what you learn on Friday, you're applying on Monday at the office. Again, my name is Alan McCafferty. Thank you very much for spending the time with us today. And again, thank you, Kevin. And I wish all of you a fantastic remainder of your day and enjoy yourselves in the nice warm heat. Bye.
Bye, everyone.